Before you take your next cholesterol pill, curious, before your next cardiology appointment, and before you pour another glass of what you think is a heart-healthy fruit juice, there is something you need to know. Pause. Because there is a fruit that has been sitting in grocery stores your entire life. A fruit that scientists discovered can do something most prescription drugs cannot do. Something so surprising that the research has been quietly buried in cardiovascular journals for over 2 decades. Surprised, not ignored. Just rarely talked about. Today you're going to discover why lowering cholesterol numbers does not necessarily stop heart disease. The 5 hidden biological processes destroying arteries that most tests never measure. The one fruit shown in clinical research to physically shrink plaque inside human arteries. And the mistake millions of seniors make when eating this fruit that actually damages their arteries instead of healing them, because there is a right way to consume it and a very wrong way, and most people are doing it wrong. This story begins with a man named Gerald. Gerald was 71 years old. He lived in Phoenix, Arizona. For 9 years, Gerald did everything his cardiologist told him to do. Every evening after dinner, he took his statin pill. Never missed a dose. His wife Carol even kept the prescription refilled 2 weeks early just in case. The pill sat in a small ceramic dish on the kitchen counter. Every night, same routine. Dinner, water, statin. And for 9 years, Gerald believed everything was under control. His cholesterol numbers were excellent. LDL, 98 total cholesterol, 172. His cardiologist told him the same thing every visit. Your numbers look great. Gerald walked every morning, watched his diet, took his medication, everything right. Then came a routine cardiology appointment on a Tuesday afternoon in March. Gerald wasn't worried. He checked in, sat in the waiting room, read his paperback. After 11 minutes, the nurse called his name. Inside the exam room, the cardiologist studied Gerald's imaging on the screen, then paused, just slightly longer than usual, not dramatically, just enough that Gerald noticed. And then the doctor said something Gerald had never expected to hear. Your plaque has grown. Not drastically, but measurably. His carotid artery wall, the artery supplying blood to the brain, was thicker than before. Even after 9 years of excellent numbers, Gerald asked the question that changed everything. If my numbers are good, why is plaque still growing? The cardiologist paused again, then answered honestly, because lowering the number is not the same as stopping the process. That moment is where this story really begins. Here is something many doctors never fully explain. LDL cholesterol itself is not the main problem. The real danger is something called oxidized LDL. Think of cholesterol like iron. Iron is strong, useful, important for structure. But when iron sits in oxygen and moisture, it rusts. Rust is still iron, but it's damaged, reactive, destructive. Oxidized LDL is basically rusted cholesterol. When free radicals collide with normal LDL particles, they chemically damage them. And that damaged LDL behaves very differently inside your arteries. Normal LDL floats through the bloodstream. Oxidized LDL sticks to artery walls. Your immune system sees it as a threat, so it sends white blood cells called macrophages to clean it up. The macrophages eat the oxidized cholesterol, but there's a problem. The oxidized cholesterol keeps coming. The macrophages eat and eat and eat until they become bloated and dysfunctional. Scientists call these swollen cells foam cells, and when millions of foam cells accumulate inside artery walls, they form the core of what we call atherosclerotic plaque. Not cholesterol numbers, dead immune cells filled with oxidized fat. That's what blocks arteries. That's what causes heart attacks. And here's the problem Gerald had. His LDL number looked great, but no one had measured oxidized LDL. There is actually a blood test for this. It's called the OxLDL test. Most cardiologists can order it. Most insurance plans cover it, and yet most patients have never heard of it. Why? Because the standard lipid panel measures total cholesterol, LDL, HDL triglycerides, but not oxidized LDL. You can have excellent cholesterol numbers and still have high oxidative damage. That means plaque continues growing silently. Exactly what happened to Gerald. Statins lower the total amount of cholesterol, but they do not stop oxidation, which means the rusting process continues. You've probably heard HDL called the good cholesterol, but HDL doesn't work alone. It carries an enzyme called paraoxonase 1, or PON1. Think of PON1 as a biological sniper. Its job is to hunt down oxidized LDL and destroy it. That's why HDL protects arteries. But here's the problem. As we age, PON1 activity declines. By age 70, many people have drastically reduced activity, meaning HDL is still circulating. But the protective enzyme is asleep, like a security guard sitting at the front desk, but sleeping while the burglars walk right past. Gerald's HDL looked good on paper, but nobody had measured whether it was actually doing its job. Here's something even more dangerous. Plaque itself doesn't always kill people. Plaque kills when it ruptures. Inside plaque is a toxic core, and that core is held in place by a thin, fibrous cap. As long as the cap stays intact, blood flows around it. Life continues normally, but certain enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs, act like microscopic scissors. They cut collagen. They weaken that protective cap. Over time, the cap becomes thinner and thinner, until one morning, it ruptures. The toxic core spills into the bloodstream. The body forms an emergency clot, and the artery suddenly becomes completely blocked. That is how most heart attacks happen. Your arteries actually have their own protection system. They produce a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals arteries to relax and widen. It keeps blood pressure normal, keeps arteries flexible. But in aging arteries, free radicals destroy nitric oxide before it can work. This creates something called endothelial dysfunction, which is actually the earliest stage of cardiovascular disease, before plaque, before symptoms, before most diagnoses. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn, because scientists discovered something remarkable, a natural compound that protects nitric oxide, activates HDL enzymes, blunts the plaque-destroying scissors, and triggers plaque to shrink, all at the same time. That compound exists inside one fruit. That fruit is pomegranate, but not the way most people eat it. Pomegranates contain powerful polyphenols called punicalagins. These compounds do several remarkable things. They neutralize free radicals that destroy nitric oxide. They increase PON1 activity on HDL. They inhibit the MMP enzymes that weaken plaque caps. And most importantly, they trigger a process called cholesterol efflux. That means foam cells release the oxidized cholesterol they've been holding. The plaque literally begins to empty from the inside. And this isn't theory. It was tested in a clinical trial. Cardiologist Dr. Michael Avaram conducted research at Rambam Medical Center in Israel. Patients with severe carotid artery plaque participated. Half received no treatment. Their plaque increased 9% over 1 year. The other group consumed pomegranate daily. Their plaque didn't just slow down, it shrank by as much as 30%. Their systolic blood pressure dropped an average of 21 points, clear arteries, lower blood pressure from a fruit. That result is almost unheard of in cardiology because most treatments only slow progression. This study showed reversal, but there's a catch, and it's the mistake almost everyone makes. Most people drink pomegranate juice. That's exactly what Barbara did. Barbara was 68. She bought bottles of pomegranate juice, drank 8 ounces every morning. 6 months later, her plaque hadn't improved. Her blood sugar had risen. Why? Because commercial pomegranate juice is pasteurized, the heat destroys many polyphenols, and the drink becomes mostly fructose. The protective compounds were gone, the sugar remained, and sugar increases oxidative stress. The real medicine isn't in the juice. It's in the bitter white pith and peel, the parts most people throw away. That's where punicolagens are concentrated. The medicine is literally the part people discard. If you eat fresh pomegranate, keep some of the white inner pith. Blend it with the seeds and water. Do not strain it. Yes, it tastes bitter. That bitterness is the polyphenols. Another option is a standardized whole fruit extract. That includes peel, pith, and seeds, with no added sugar, and as always, never change medications without speaking to your doctor. Natural compounds work best alongside medical guidance. Gerald returned to his cardiologist 6 months later, not with different cholesterol numbers, those were already good, but with imaging. The measurement that actually matters. His plaque had moved in the right direction. His cardiologist stared at the screen for a long time, then asked one question. What exactly did you change? Because the goal of heart health isn't just managing numbers, it's stopping and hopefully reversing the process. And sometimes, the most powerful medicine isn't hidden in a pharmacy. It's been sitting in the produce section all along. If you found this video valuable, share it with someone who thinks their cholesterol numbers mean their arteries are safe. Because numbers can look perfect, while the process keeps running. And that's the conversation more people need to have.